Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Xiong. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. One of the enduring and popular topics on Chinese social media currently revolves around the possibility of a housing price decline and its potential catastrophic consequences. The prevailing sentiment is that housing prices are stagnating and people are hoping for a decline. However, it appears that the government is hesitant to allow housing prices to fall. This raises questions. Why is it difficult for housing price to decrease? Why is the government discouraging a decline in housing prices? People often hear arguments suggesting that a sharp drop in housing prices would trigger a catastrophic event. Today, let's delve into whether such a catastrophe is likely to occur. To begin our discussion, let's explore two trending news topics on the internet. One of the news topics is about a notification released by the Kunshan Housing and Real Estate Administration in early May. The notification addresses the issue of several real estate development companies lowering prices without authorization. According to the notification, the administration conducted an investigation into the illegal activities of these companies in order to regulate the city's real estate market and ensure its stable and healthy development. After verifying the findings, the administration reports the violations and action taken against Kunshan Jiabao Online Property Corporation Limited and Kunshan Changtai Property Corporation Limited. The unauthorized significant price reductions conducted by Kunshan Jiabao Online Property Corporation in their development project called Dream Moon Garden, and by Kunshan Changtai Property Corporation in their development project called Shangbin Garden, were found to have disrupted the normal order of the real estate market and contributed to social instability. As a result, the administration has demanded immediate rectification of the aforementioned projects and prohibited further property sales. At the end of May, the online discussions about government intervention in housing prices continue. In contrast to the approach taken by the Kunshan government, reports from Communist Party media indicate that the authorities in Huizhou, Guangdong province have responded to this issue. Surprisingly, there are real estate projects in Huizhou offering discounts as low as 48%. Since May, the real estate market in Huizhou has experienced an unprecedented wave of price reductions. Some properties that were initially priced at 14,000 yuan per square meter have been discounted to 9,000 yuan and eventually sold at 7,000 yuan per square meter. This means that the final transaction price is half of the original price, representing a significant discount. Officials from the Greater Bay Area Housing Authority have responded to public reports by stating that these price reductions by real estate companies are market-driven actions and have undergone all necessary procedures allowing for normal online transactions. During the same time frame, the attitudes of the two local governments are starkly different, with a significantly larger number of governments imposing restrictions on price reductions compared to those permitting them. The decision of the Huizhou government in Guangdong to allow a 50% price reduction has garnered significant attention. It remains uncertain whether other regions will follow suit in allowing similar price reductions. However, based on the current overall situation, the majority of local governments do not permit price reductions. Let's engage in a discussion about the potential repercussions of a real estate market collapse. If property prices were to undergo a substantial decline, what consequences would ensue? To illustrate, let's consider a scenario where prices drop by 50%. we will analyze the different sectors that would be negatively impacted and experience discomfort or distress as a result of such a sharp decline in property price. First and foremost, in Chinese households, around 70% of the debt is comprised of housing loans. If there were a significant decline in property prices, would it have an impact on residents' household debt? To be honest, it would not directly affect their household debt. Instead, it would primarily result in the depreciation of their property value while the loan amount remains unchanged. Essentially, it means that they would be paying back more than what their property is currently worth. For instance, let's consider a scenario where a house was initially valued at 1 million yuan with a loan of 500,000 yuan. If the property value drops to 500,000 yuan, it might lead to emotional distress and create a perception of increased debt burden. However, the actual debt itself has not changed, and the monthly repayment amount remains the same without any alteration. It is merely the psychological discomfort that arises from the situation. On the other hand, a significant decline in property prices would benefit new buyers as it reduces their debt burden. This would subsequently lead to a substantial decrease in overall scale and proportion of bank mortgage loans. From this perspective, a major drop in real estate prices poses no issues for new property buyers. In fact, it serves as a favorable outcome as it alleviates their financial burden, and they would welcome such a development. Therefore, a substantial decline in housing prices will not lead to catastrophic consequences for both existing and new property buyers. In terms of the second aspect, there is a common concern that a significant decline in property prices could lead to the collapse of the financial system. Consequently, the Communist Party aims to prevent a major drop in housing prices to safeguard the stability of the financial system. However, the question arises, to what extent would a decline in property prices jeopardize the financial system? China Construction Bank has released a research report asserting that they could withstand a 50% decrease in property prices. In other words, if current property prices were to be cut in half, China Construction Bank claims it would not collapse, though it would still face considerable challenges. Being one of the strongest banks in China, it can make such a statement, but can other banks also survive unscathed after a 50% decline in housing prices? This report from China Construction Bank conveys an additional message. A 50% decline in property prices is their threshold, implying that if prices were to fall below this mark, the banking system would face collapse. However, it is challenging to precisely control the extent of property price declines, particularly in regions such as the 3rd tier, 4th tier, and 5th tier cities, where prices could drop by more than 50%. For instance, in Hegang, Heilongjiang province, if property prices were to decline, the decrease would likely exceed 50%, potentially reaching extremely low levels. Even without experiencing a major collapse in the real estate market like Heilongjiang province, Huizhou has already witnessed a 50% decrease in property prices. Therefore, the risk to the financial system resulting from a decline in property prices is significant, and it is relatively easy for property prices to breach the 50% threshold. Thirdly, if property prices were to decline particularly by a significant margin such as 50%, it would discourage further investment in real estate. A 50% decrease in property price would lead to a substantial decline in profits for many real estate development companies, potentially resulting in significant losses. Currently, it is unlikely that the gross profit margin in the real estate industry is as high as 50%. A steep drop in property price would significantly impede investments in the sector. However, does this mean that the real estate industry would collapse? In terms of the industry itself, it would not necessarily collapse, but rather impose restrictions and limitations on certain companies, preventing them from further investing in real estate. Therefore, for the real estate industry, it would not be a catastrophic event. Fourthly, if property price were to plummet by 50%, it would further diminish the revenue generated from land for local governments. Presently, a significant number of local governments in China have already witnessed a noticeable decline in land-related income. The repayment of local government debts heavily relies on the funds acquired from land sales. Consequently, a decline in property prices would devalue the land, making it considerably more challenging to sell. This would expedite the financial collapse of local governments, resulting in dire consequences. Fifthly, the real estate sector exerts a strong influence over the past 2 decades. The thriving real estate industry has played a crucial role in propelling China's GDP growth. However, if the real estate sector were to stagnate or decline, it would not only result in the contraction of the real estate industry itself, but also have a significant adverse impact on related sectors such as construction materials, steel, furniture, appliances, and consumer goods, among others. Drawing a parallel to Japan's burst real estate bubble, there is a possibility that the Chinese GDP could regress by 15 years. Would such a regression of China's GDP cause the sky to fall? It would, indeed, pose a considerable threat to the Chinese Communist Party, since the CCP has always relied on GDP growth to justify its governing legitimacy. A regression of China's GDP by 10 or 15 years would present a formidable challenge to the CCP's governance, at least from the CCP's perspective. In that regard, the sky would be on the brink of collapse. According to the analysis of the 5 aspects mentioned earlier, it can be concluded that the collapse of household debt and the decline in real estate investment would not have catastrophic consequences. However, from the perspective of the Chinese Communist Party, there are 3 other aspects that could be perceived as the sky falling. If property prices were to decrease by half, it would lead to the collapse of the banking system, which would be seen as a disaster. Similarly, if the fiscal situation of local governments was to universally collapse, it would be considered a major crisis. Moreover, if China's GDP were to experience a significant regression, it will be deemed as a calamity by the CCP. During our analysis today, we examined the 2 contrasting scenarios: the Huizhou government allowing a nearly 50% discount on property prices, while the Kunshan government strictly prohibits any price reductions. These examples have made us realize that a 50% decrease in property price is feasible in China. The question then arises, will the Chinese government permit a widespread and a significant decline in property prices? This question holds significant realism. Based on our earlier analysis, it seems that the Chinese government is not adequately prepared to confront a downturn in real estate prices. As a result, they persist in resisting such a situation. Looking back at the burst of the real estate bubble in Japan, did the Japanese government attempt to prevent it? Certainly, they made efforts to intervene, but ultimately the real estate market still experienced a collapse. The government cannot entirely impede it. Similar to the Huizhou government, do they not desire elevated land prices? Do they not wish for higher property prices? Undoubtedly, they do. Nevertheless, they cannot prevent the decline in property prices. Despite the Chinese Communist Party's reluctance and efforts to prevent a decline in property prices, it remains questionable whether they have the capability to completely halt such a decline. They may have the intention to intervene, but their effectiveness may be limited. it is prudent for individuals to proactively prepare for potential scenarios and take necessary precautions. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.